Viewers and subscribers, welcome back to Beating the Press podcast. I am your host, Rafa. Now, coming up in this evening's podcast, we're going to be discussing some EPL football and looking ahead to the big FA Cup quarterfinals clash. Manchester United taking on Liverpool. Now, joining me this evening to preview these matches, we have returning to the podcast, Christophe.
Good to be back, viewers.
Yes, indeed, Christophe. It's been another week full of football. Arsenal getting through in the Champions League. I mean, Arsenal fan, how are you feeling at this moment?
I'm feeling anyway. I mean, it's good to be true. Porto tried their best to defend out the entire game, and ultimately, it was probably to their detriment to not try and get a goal, maybe earlier in the match.
Yes, indeed, Arsenal going through on penalties in that one. And, they are still in the Champions League competition. So quite a number of games coming up for Arsenal there. But Christophe, this week is a unique week in that we have a combination of EPL matches and some FA Cup quarterfinals coming up. Now, in terms of the EPL games, two of the bigger games that could have some serious implication for the top four. Aston Villa takes on West Ham. And then, of course, Fulham takes on Spurs. Spurs and Aston Villa, two of the teams battling it out for that fourth place and that automatic Champions League qualifying position. But Christoph, talk to us about this one in terms of looking ahead to Aston Villa taking on West Ham. We saw where Aston Villa played today in the Europa Conference League and got a 4-0 victory over Ajax. But can they repeat that versus West Ham, who also played today in the Conference League also and battered their opponents 5-0, I believe? Talk to us, Christoph. How do you see that game? Aston Villa taking on West Ham United. Aston Villa playing away from home in this one.
Um, well, West Ham's EPL form has been rather poor of late. Uh, if I were to bet on the game, I would definitely go with an Aston Villa performance since it does seem like they probably are getting their mojo back together better than, let's say, West Ham. I'm not expecting much of West Ham on the day. I expect Aston Villa to let's say demolish them. I would probably go with Aston Villa 3-0.
Well, I mean, this one might be tricky, Christoph, as in the game today, Watkins was taken off due to an injury. So I am not even sure he'll be available and fit to face West Ham. And West Ham themselves have been having an up and down season in the EPL. Uh, Last week, they came from behind, I believe, to draw 2-2 with Burnley, having gone down 2-0 in their last EPL game, and that one ending in a draw. But they have been having an up and down season, very unpredictable, I must say. But they look a good bet this afternoon versus their Europa Conference League opponent, where they came away 5-0 winners. Kudos getting Peketa also playing well. And of course, the inform man at the moment for West Ham, Bowen, continues to sizzle, getting on the score sheet and providing a couple of assists as well. So it might not be as clear-cut a game as we may think, Christoph, in this one. I definitely expect West Ham to put up a fight, especially playing in front of their home crowd. And of course, Aston Villa lost to Spurs last week. Magin got a red card, so he will be suspended for this game. And as I mentioned earlier, Watkins possibly fighting again to regain fitness. I'm not sure the severity of the injured, but he was definitely pulled early, midway the first half in their Europa League conference game versus Ajax. And I'm not sure the status of his health at the moment. So if Watkins was to go down with an injury, this makes it an even tougher task for this Aston Villa team. And we've been speaking, of course, Christoph, that this Aston Villa team plagued with injuries, maybe running out of legs. They may be imploding at the wrong time and really not finding that quality depth to really take them all the way and remain competitive in the top four.
here's the thing. West Ham beat Friedberg 5-0. Right? Friedberg is, mid-table Bundesliga. I think they have what, like 10 losses, 6 draws. Now, we know that the quality of the Bundesliga is concentrated at the top. Bayern, Dortmund, and this season, Leverkusen, right? So I don't read too much into the result from that match. I look to how West Ham has been performing all season. They won two of their last five, which is excellent for them because they beat, I believe, um, Everton and Brentford, I think. Yeah, Brentford. So they beat Everton and Brentford. Everton probably an easier match than say Brentford, which I guess we'd give them some props for that. But then they drew with Burnley, so I'm not. I am not impressed by West Ham. I don't see them providing too much trouble to Aston Villa, despite the fact that we said Aston Villa might be losing a bit of steam at the moment. I think they still have enough, even without Ollie Watkins, the farm of players like Leon Bailey has been exceptional to the standards that we hold players like that this season. So I'm expecting them to be kind of swept away on the weekend.
I must concur with a few of the points you raised there, Christoph. However, I am not sure I share the same sentiments as it relates to the result. I think this West Ham team under Moyes having drawn with Burnley last week and now playing in front of their home crowd, galvanized by this win in the Europa Conference League, 5-0, a number of their key players getting on the score sheet, also keeping a clean sheet. I just think that they may find that inner mojo and really put up a fight against this Aston Villa outfit, especially considering that Ole Watkins, their talisman, the man that has been finding the goals all season, may be out injured. Or if not, maybe nursing an injury going into this game. I must admit, I mean, the likes of a Leon Bailey, a Douglas Luiz, have been playing well. And, there are other players who could potentially step up and find those goals. But I just find it hard to see beyond this West Ham team right now, considering, as I mentioned, the injury of Watkins. I think that is the key talking point or turning point for me. Aston Villa without a Watkins may look like a completely different team.
I'm just not sure about West Ham's credentials. I mean, we saw where they lost 2-0 to Nottingham Forest, so
So you're saying, so what's your official prediction for this one, Christoph? You're
3-0
expecting
Aston Villa or
3-0.
3-1 or 3-1 Aston Villa, I think will be the result.
Yeah, bold prediction there. For me, I think both teams will score. I don't think the defenses of either team will keep a clean sheet. So, but I think it's gonna be a tighter game, and I believe I am leaning towards a West Ham win. So for me, I'm gonna call this one 2-1 to West Ham at home in front of their home fans. This is an opportunity for them to get back on track, get back on that winning platform. And that's my call for this one. 2-1 to the West Ham. But the next big team, which is in action, Christoph, which also has some top four fight in them, is Spurs. Spurs taking on Fulham. Spurs playing away from home. Fulham, Craven Cottage is the venue for this one. Fulham playing at home, and this is another massive game, another game with some serious top four credentials, or it could really determine who finishes in that top four position. Aston Villa and Spurs pretty much going head to head, with Manchester United having a slight outside chance. But how are you seeing this game, Christoph? Fulham versus Spurs.
Well, Fulham is coming into this game on the back of our last two, I believe, Wolves, who is a team that you've been looking at and said you're impressed with.
Very
Um,
impressive this
I
season.
I I think this game should be um just another day at the bank for Tottenham, but given that they're missing a number of players to injuries, I guess specifically Richarlison, who has been excellent for them this season. Do still think Tottenham just have enough firepower for Fulham, whose form has been, kind of spotty. I think Fulham have what, maybe 13 losses this season. So I'm expecting Tottenham to win. Um, Given that it's a London derby, so to speak, I expect Fulham
Oh,
would put
definitely
up a
two
f-
London
would
teams.
I expect Fulham would put up a fight, and I think it might be 2-1 Spurs, but I do in fact expect Spurs to come out victorious in the time of game.
Definitely. Spurs, to me, Christoph, is playing the most fluid football in the league right now. They are just churning.
Spurs, not
Yeah,
Arsenal.
no, definitely not. Definitely not. Very choppy from Arsenal, but Spurs, if you watch the Spurs game, very fluid. Yeah, Ange has these guys really playing some quality football, knocking it from the defense to the midfield, transitioning it through the midfield, and then moving it into that forward line with the likes of Son. Werner have really hit the ground running since his January move to Spurs. And of course, Brennan Johnson, that young footballer who signed from Nottingham Forest, have been stepping up in the absence of Richarlison. So I agree with you 100% in this one, Christopher. I just think Spurs will have too much firepower for this Fulham team. And for me, I am looking that they should at very minimum put three past Fulham. So for me, I'm looking at a possible 3-1 or 3-0. You know, the Spurs defense have been holding it steady all season, I would say. And the only concern I have is that Van der Veen have picked up an injury. So that partnership with him and Romero in the heart of the Spurs defense might be disrupted for this game. But I believe they have sufficient defensive cover to really cope with this Fulham team. On the other hand, Fulham, to me, up and down season again. Sometimes they turn up, sometimes not. It should be a competitive game for the most part, I believe, but I just think Spurs will have too much. But one player I'd like to highlight from that Fulham team is Munez, the Brazilian striker. I believe that is where Fulham have been lacking all season in their goal scorer, their number nine. And Munez, over the last couple of games, have really stepped up and has been finding the back of the net. So viewers and subscribers, definitely look out for that player. Brazilian doesn't get much highlight, but he has been playing some good football, alongside Iwobi, former Arsenal, former Everton player. He has been stepping up, providing a few assists as well. So while I don't believe Fulham will win this game, they do have a few players who could display some flashes of quality. And as I mentioned, they may get a goal or two in this one. But at the end of the day, I strongly anticipate that Spurs will come away victorious. But from a more tactical point of view, though, Christoph, how can this Spurs team be stopped by Fulham? What sort of plan or tactic could be employed by to stop this Fulham team? I mean, this Spurs team.
Well, they could go the tried and true and tested low block and hitting on the counter, similar to how they played against let's say Manchester United. The problem is that when you go into a low block against Spurs, which I guess is better quality opposition than Man United, you do run the risk of inviting too much pressure on you. So there has to be a balance that that needs to be struck. Um, Also, they could try and clog up the midfield. Spurs does have its strengths on the wings. We do have players like Son, who will play on the wing but will also play centrally. But I think perhaps the biggest danger for them is probably James Madison, and stopping him playing would be key to stopping Spurs.
Definitely a very good point there. You know, Madison, the England international, finding a goal last week and providing a few assists in the previous games as well, have definitely had a tremendous season ever since his transfer from the relegated Leicester team. And as I said, this is a match made in heaven for Madison. He is playing in his preferred role week in, week out. And the system which Ange have employed have definitely suited him and has really maximized his strength, giving him really the freedom to play that so-called number 10 role and really, progressing the ball, finding the passes and really coming up with some goals as well. But I think one of the key areas for Spurs this season has been their fullbacks, Poro and Yodogi. They have been two of the better fullbacks in the league, and the strength of this Spurs attack really lies with them really bombing forward and creating overloads on the flank. And I expect no different from this game. The Fulham defense should have their hands full with trying to stop Poro and Yodogi making those long bursting runs down the left and right hand side and creating that 2v1 on the flanks. So that is something Silva will have to work out, potentially doubling up on the flanks, pulling one of your central midfielders and having him support the fullback on either side. So it should be a good tactical battle. These are two quality coaches. But as mentioned before, Christophe, I do expect Spurs to go out and get this victory. My prediction for this one, Spurs to win 3-1. What says you? What's your final prediction?
2-1 Spurs.
2-1 to the Spurs. Now, that is the EPL, Christophe. I mean, we have quarterfinals of the FA Cup this week as well. And the biggest game in that quarterfinals is Manchester United versus Liverpool, two long-standing rivals. And that's the focus now. Talk to us about that one, Christophe. Manchester United at home versus a rampant Liverpool team at this point in time, really setting their aim high and going for the quadruple of titles. Thus far, they have one in the bank, the Carling Cup. How do you see these two teams coming into this game?
So this is a really interesting game. I don't think home field advantage does anything for Man United at the moment. Uh, we expect Man U to set up as they've set up all season, playing on the counter attack. But I think we'll also expect to see them trying to potentially exploit set pieces. I do not have a figure of how many set pieces that they've scored this season, so I'm not sure, but they'll be
Well, I mean,
looking to.
Manchester United is among the lowest scorers in the league, in all honesty. I mean, the likes of a Luton is punching above Manchester United in terms of the number of goals scored. So far, Manchester United have only scored 39 goals, Christoph, all season. Teams like Luton have banged in 41. So that just goes to show the lack of potency of their attack, in all honesty. And as you mentioned, it seems as if that home crowd advantage isn't really an advantage after all.
No, not an advantage for Man U at the moment, and probably for a while now. Uh, as we've said all season, Man U can only score on the counter attack or in set pieces. So we will expect that Liverpool will dominate possession, looking at maybe 70-71% possession, and Man U will look to take their chances on the counter attack and try to beat Liverpool in that manner. But I can't see past Liverpool winning at the moment. Um, I expect it will probably be, unless it's a blowout, we'll probably be seeing like a Liverpool 3-1 victory.
Definitely an interesting outlook there, Christoph. I mean, with Manchester United playing at home, you would anticipate that they would try to press the Liverpool team into mistakes and not necessarily just sit back and soak up pressure. But
Unlikely.
oftentimes, based on how Manchester United have played Liverpool in the last clash they had at Anfield. That one ending 0-0, I believe that was a surprise result for many when many persons anticipated a Liverpool win. So I am not diving into this one head first, Christoph. Liverpool is definitely in some good form. Uh, Drawing with Manchester City in their last game and then demolishing Sparta Prague in the Europa League. A number of players getting on the score sheet, and it was good to see Salah getting a start as well. So Liverpool is getting back a number of key players at the right time. So to me, it should be a stronger Liverpool 11 going out there versus Manchester United in this FA Cup quarter-final. So it's really all to play for. A spot in the semi-final beckons. And as I mentioned, Liverpool is definitely trying to compete on all fronts. They are, second in the EPL, won the Carling Cup already, pretty much in the quarterfinals of the Europa League, and in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup as well. So really on all four fronts, Liverpool is doing exceptionally well in this Jurgen Klopp's final season, and they will definitely looking to go out with a bang, trying to get as many trophies as possible. But from a more tactical point of view, though, Christophe, I just spoke of the Liverpool players coming back. I'm hearing that Highland might be back. And what can we expect of him?
I mean, Hoyland, I think, is probably Manu's best weapon, perhaps outside of maybe like Garnacho. Um, will he start? I don't know. But if he does start, I think we'll be seeing him used in a very, I think it would be best to use him in a sort of battering ram type play. But I don't think Manu will do that. It would be very wise to utilize his height and physicality to try and beat Van Dijk, given that I mean, you've said all season that Liverpool defense does look weak, looks shaky. They've been looking stronger in recent weeks, I would say.
I'm not sure if weak is the right word. I just think that they give up the first goal on a number of occasions far too often. Whether that is weak, I am not sure. But if you check the statistics, they have one of the better defensive record in the league. It's just that to me, the sort of goals they give it up very early in the game, and they usually give it up first. So oftentimes it forces the team in general to really catch up, to play from behind, having the opponent team gone ahead. And in all honesty, again, for this game, it would not surprise me one bit if Manchester United caught them on a quick counter and took a lead, similar to how Manchester United took a lead versus Man City, with one of those quality strikes, so to speak, or one of those out of this world type strikes. So it wouldn't surprise me if Manchester United took the lead in this one, which forces Liverpool to really play from behind. But again, for me, with the sort of quality Liverpool has, the Darwin Núñez, the Salahs, the Diaz, Szoboszlai coming back from injury, Endo really locking up the midfield along with McAllister, that should potentially be the front six for this Liverpool team. And then, of course, in the defensive third, Van Dijk, the ever-present, he may be partnered with either the youngster Kwanzaa, and then, of course, on the left, I believe Robertson should get the start. And then Bradley, that young right back filling in for Trent, should get the start on the right. That is the team I expect. And I would say that would be Liverpool's strongest 11 currently, barring a few injuries to Alisson and Trent. That would be a good enough Liverpool team, balanced team. And of course, on the bench, you may have the likes of a Gagpo coming on and making an impact as well. So Liverpool is definitely getting back their better players. Results have been going well. But of course, this is a derby game. This is a rival match, Christophe. And oftentimes we say when it comes to derby, form goes through the window.
Right, we said that, but they went and got beaten by Man City as well. So we didn't see any ounce of what's the word? Grit from them against Man City.
Yeah, I guess
Once
that is
they
the fear. That is definitely the fear. If Liverpool were to go ahead in this one, then they could crumble and fall. That is definitely the fear, especially if the home crowd gets on top of them. It's very difficult when your own team doesn't have that confidence or that trust in you. So if Liverpool were to go get the first goal, it could get very messy.
I do believe if Manu score, Manu will be the one to get the first goal in the game. The question is, can they get that goal? Can they hold it? I don't think so, but we'll have to see on the day.
Definitely one for the neutrals should be a very exciting game. This one coming up on Sunday. Rashford Christophe. Rashford has been a player which has been off the boil in recent times, but he has been up and down, blowing hot and cold at times all season. What can we expect from a Rashford? It seemed like Garnacho is now the main attacking threat in this Manchester United team. Once upon a time, that man was Rashford.
Hard to say. I have long thought Rashford was overhyped, overinflated player. I think all this hype that comes with Rashford is down to the fact that he's, English. Had he been, maybe Spanish or South American or Central American, people would not be talking about him in such a manner. However, I don't know if we're seeing where from him where it's just that he's gotten to his level, he's already peaked or whatever. I don't know. Ever since he signed a new contract, his form has been very spotty. So it's hard to tell at the moment.
Yeah, oftentimes it's the little things, it's that little extra commitment which makes the difference between, you could say, a good player and, a player who is performing at a world-class level, that extra effort,
But
so to
that
speak.
is not just Rashford. That is the problem with majority of the Man United players at the moment. And
Mm.
it could be down to the fact that these players are on. I mean, it could be that, the harmony in the squad is disrupted. Maybe they don't like the coach, maybe they don't like the way how they're playing, whatever. But it could also be down to the fact that they are on such high wages. What am I playing for? I don't care.
Yes, definitely. Indeed. The motivation might be lacking this moment. Oftentimes once you get that big bomber contract, then it seems as if certain little elements goes out of your game and you get a more lackluster player, that extra oomph or that extra dynamism which you may have had, that extra hunger. You no longer have that hunger and you just go through the motions, so to speak. But I mean, I definitely think Manchester United will be up for this game, as I said, especially playing against their rivals. Their fans will definitely be G'd up for this game. And, oftentimes that atmosphere rubs off on the players. So I definitely expect Manchester United to come all guns blazing for this game. Can they get the result is the question. I think they do have the advantage of playing at home. I would be more confident if this game was being played at Anfield. But I do believe Liverpool has the requisite quality, has the requisite skill, have the requisite tactical approach to really go to Old Trafford and get a positive result in this one. So for me, Christoph, I'm definitely taking Liverpool to win this one. I think it will be a closely fought game, and I'm going to give Liverpool the edge in taking this one 2 goals to 1. What says you in terms of your predicted scoreline?
My predicted scoreline will be Liverpool 3, Man United 1. I do not see the fans getting behind them behind this in this match just because it's Liverpool. I think in more recent years, Liverpool has kind of demoralized them, and they're probably expecting to get beaten.
Ah, interesting perspective there. It's hard to argue against those points which are raised. I definitely believe when you look at both teams, Liverpool should be the more confident of the two teams going into this game. I believe Liverpool has the self-confidence to go to Old Trafford, get the result. In fact, they would be expecting to win. Liverpool should enter this game as favorites, and to really progress to the semi-finals in this FA Cup clash. But time will tell. This one coming up on Sunday, viewers and subscribers. But Christoph, any final thoughts on this weekend set of football fixtures? Any
Uh,
final thoughts?
In terms of fixtures, I don't think much attention will be paid to the EPL matches this weekend, given that the results have no huge impact on the top four. We basically see what the top three is going to be. I think it's mostly that fourth spot that will be contested probably between Tottenham and Aston Villa. I think all eyes will be on the FA Cup, the Liverpool, Man United, as well as Manchester City, Newcastle,
Newcastle.
and I do hope both Man City and Liverpool, progress forward to the next stage because it's more games for them, and it leaves open the door for Arsenal to get more points, more fatigue to those players, which is excellent.
Indeed, indeed. And speaking of fatigue, Arsenal should definitely be fatigued after their extra time encounter with Porto. You
Yeah,
know,
but Arsenal has no games for the next 3 weeks, so
well, that could be curse as well as a blessing, oftentimes managers speak of football rhythm. And when you continuously have that rhythm of playing weeks each week versus having a layoff of 3 weeks, it could potentially harbor some cobwebs coming out for your next game after a long period without any game. But time will tell definitely. And you did mention that Man City takes on Newcastle. I fully believe Man City should get a win in that game. Newcastle have just been a bit too inconsistent this season. They are not the Newcastle of last season. So I fully expect Man City to go out and get that win. Anything other than that would be a huge upset in my eyes. So I fully expect Man City to progress there, and potentially it could be a semi-final clash between Liverpool and Man City, or potentially it could be that they meet in the final. Time is the master, time will tell. But definitely some interesting games coming up, and the results will definitely shape the season and have a major impact on these teams going forward. At this point in time, any small advantage counts because the title race is so tight. 1 point separating these teams in the top four currently. But that's all the time we have, viewers and subscribers. Christophe, I'd just like to thank you again for coming on board and definitely sharing with us some profound thoughts and some very intriguing opinions there in terms of looking ahead to the football action coming up this week. Viewers and subscribers, thanks again for logging on and supporting Beating the Press podcast. Please, of course, continue to help us grow by leaving a comment. Tell us your predictions for this big FA Cup. Manchester United versus Liverpool. Who will win? What will be the scoreline? And of course, if you haven't subscribed as yet, please hit that subscription bell. But until next time, this is Rafa signing off.